just in time for NTV Today, the 15th of March 2018, the 135th day of the year, and also the 6th day of distress, agony, and efforts of recollection for the victims of the Solai Dam tragedy. This is also the second day after the lapsing of some timelines for Nairobi's regeneration plan, with a number of them remaining unfulfilled. Numerous updates on these and other stories, and you are sure to get them right here on NTV Today. Good morning and welcome to the broadcast. My name is Trevor Ombija, and I will be taking you through the show alongside our ready and able team in Nairobi, the Senate Committee on Securities, to give a report on its findings at the collapsed Killer Patel Dam in Solai. Following the team's tour yesterday, Jen Goiri will be joining us live from Parliament with that update. Still in the capital, human rights activists are leading a demonstration march championing for better and conducive breastfeeding conditions for lactating mothers. Halima Gongo is on that trail and will be giving us the latest update on the issues and the demos as well. This morning, Tifa Research has released a survey that scores the county government of the three city counties, Nairobi, Mombasa, and Kisumu. Silas Apollo attended the event and will be bringing us all the details later on in the broadcast. In the county of Homa Bay, assistance is being given to victims of destructive floods that marooned parts of the county, and Bernardo Juang will be on the ground to update us as well. We also have news on the economy, sports, and entertainment. Dan Mwangi is here with me for the latest in the business world before we cross over to Peter Mongangu, who is standing by in Mombasa with the latest over some regulations being done there by the ERC to ensure that the petroleum tankers are regulated and they're more safe. But Dan, let's start with you.
All right, thank you very much, Trevor. As we always say, we're making sense of all that's making sense. And today we shall be having a live interview with the PS for Trade. That's Chris Kipto, who is going to be in studio talking largely about the Kenya having passed the Africa Free Continental Trade Area Agreement, which is the first country to have officially done that through its parliament. And President Kenyatta has really been on the back of the MPs pushing for this agenda, and also pushing for his fellow presidents and other leaders who have visited him in the country to ask their parliaments to push this legislation to go through so as to make the continental trading bloc come into effect as soon as possible. And we shall be having the details of that and what opportunities are in store for Kenyan business persons and other people, and even just for the residents, what promises are there and what challenges may be faced. And we'll be speaking with the PS later on in this broadcast. But for now, back to you, Trevor.
Thanks, Dan. I like that line, making sense of all the sense. That's what Dan does the best. We'll join him in the bit. Let me show you some pictures coming from around Parliament right now. We had mentioned to you earlier on that the human rights activists were demonstrating. This is coming after a woman who was breastfeeding a child who was allegedly embarrassed by some waitresses in a restaurant here in Nairobi. They are now advocating for better and conducive environment to breastfeed their children. They want a bill that was brought in by Sabina Chege to be signed by the president. That's one of the demands they're making. They're also saying that they should be allowed to breastfeed their children anywhere as long as it's necessary and possible, and not under unconducive environments, which they're highlighting, like toilets and public places, which they say is not conducive for them. Halima Gongo is keeping on their trail. They're right now somewhere around Rambe Avenue, if I'm not wrong. That's in Nairobi CBD. We'll touch base with some of them to find out what the issues are and whether they think they're being taken for granted and what they think the solution will be going forward. Let's listen in. right, that's within the Nairobi CBD. Of course, those human rights activists insisting with the banner written breastfeeding is a right. They want the women to be allowed to breastfeed. This is coming after Kenyan mother told of a humiliation by a restaurant in Nairobi's downtown. The restaurant has since apologized, but they still think they should be given more space to breastfeed their children in conducive places, and they're saying that it is a right. We'll be touching base with Ali Magongo in just a bit for that. At the same time, the Kenya Accreditation Service, that's KENAS, and the Energy Regulatory Commission, that's ERC, are currently holding a sensitization meeting on new frameworks there that govern the licensing of petroleum and LPG road tankers. The guidelines were formulated to ensure safety is observed during the loading and transport as well of petroleum products. Peter Mongangi is now joining us live from Mombasa with the latest. Peter, what stood out during the press briefing?
Good morning, Trevor. It's actually a sensitization program about the energy regulations which were formulated in 2013, otherwise known as the Licensing of Petroleum and Road Transportation Business Regulations of 2013. They were regulations aimed at ensuring that the highest standards of safety are observed during the loading, transportation and discharge of petroleum. As you all know, petroleum is a highly flammable product, and utmost caution must be taken while handling it. So this is a sensitization program, and I just want to speak to some of the stakeholders here. Later on I'll be speaking also to some of the transporters to hear their sentiments on what on their take on those regulations. But right now I want to speak to Susan Munyiri Ochieng, who is the Deputy Director of Technical Services at the Kenya Accreditation Service. What is the importance of this workshop in the first place?
This workshop has brought stakeholders within the petroleum industry, and especially those who are concerned with the transportation of petroleum products. So ERC, which is the Energy Regulatory Commission, and Kenya Accreditation Service have partnered together to sensitize all those who are involved in this business on the safety requirements with respect to transportation of flammable products. And more so, Kenya Accreditation Service is being involved because we are interested in the inspection of the tankers that are used to transport petroleum and petroleum products as well as LPG. Because as far as we are concerned, these are, the high-risk product, and any small thing can cause havoc in this country.
Let's talk about your organization, which is involved in the accreditation itself. What are some of the issues you look at before you accredit a body to inspect the petroleum handlers?
Accreditation rides on a framework. Of course, the Apex utilizing international standards. So with respect to inspection, the international standard that we apply is the ISO IEC 17020-2012, which is the standard that is used by inspection bodies to demonstrate their competence with respect to carrying out the inspection activity. So when we are talking about inspection of petroleum tankers or tankers that carry LPG, it is expected that we would apply the ISO IEC 17020, but also in addition add on the Kenyan standards as part of the accreditation framework for the organizations or the inspection bodies to be able to demonstrate that they fulfill those requirements as well. So at the topmost, you'll have the ISO IEC 17020. Then the tertiary standards will be the 4 Kenya standards that apply to the vessel construction and all the requirements that are applied to be able to specify or indicate the sanity of that vessel as constructed.
And I know for many Kenyans, when you say ISO and some of these terms, they may not understand what exactly goes into ensuring that this body is trusted to ensure that it will inspect some of those petroleum tankers. Because let's face it, we've had accidents in the country because as a result of poor handling of such facilities. We've seen some petroleum tankers even parked in highly populated residential areas. How do you ensure that this one, even after accreditation, is fit to continue inspecting?
Okay, let me start off by qualifying the fact that the interest for conformity assessment activity is where the conformity assessment activity happens. So for the transportation process, we have first the vessel that is used to carry the product, and that is the tanker itself. The tanker has to be built in a certain way. It has to meet certain safety requirements before you load on product. And then when it has product and it is being moved from point A to B, it needs to be protected in a manner that if there's an accident or so, the discharge of that product should be in a manner that would safeguard, the environment where it is and also the safety of the persons that are around it, so that we do not have, the accidents that we are used to have. So the accreditation process first would look at, because our focus is not really on the transporter but on the person who built the vessel, because that's a design component in itself. So we'll look at the management system that the inspection body rides on. Do they have a system in place? Do they continually improve, review their system and ensure that there's continual improvement? That is one component. Then the standard requires that then you also look at the technical competence requirements. So we'll look at the technical infrastructure. Do they have the right facilities to carry out that inspection activity? Now, do they have the right competence in terms of the persons that do the inspection activity? Are they properly skilled? Do they have the right qualifications? Are they continually reviewed and monitored over a period, so that we don't have an inspector who studied the inspection mechanisms 20 years ago, not continually updating themselves with the new technologies that are coming up for inspection? And those are the things that we are keen on. So when we are actually carrying out the accreditation assessment, well, we'll look at the management system. We will actually go in and witness the inspection activity being carried out by this entity, to give us that comfort, yes, that they're actually doing the right things, and they are also monitoring the inspectors in a manner that they are updating themselves with the knowledge, the new knowledge that's coming up, and of course with the new techniques of inspection. And when we are happy that the requirements of the standard have been met, then we issue an accreditation certificate. But that doesn't stop there, because with accreditation comes surveillance. So when you've been accredited, the first time you've been accredited, 6 months down the line, we will come in and check that, are you still delivering as was expected, and is your system improving and continually improving? And if that is fine, we will then increase the surveillance period from 6 months to 1 year, if you're okay. But then we will do that yearly. And our accreditation period is 3 years. Thereafter, after I think the 30th month, we'll then come in and do another reassessment to continue with the accreditation. So that will give you some sanity that, yes, we are not just walking in there and then walking out, that we are actually continually checking that the activities or the conformity assessment activities that are demonstrated by the accredited inspection body are delivering. Now, then we expect that the tanker, now in this case, we've actually dealt with the tanker because for us, that's the first main point of contact. If you don't have the right vessel transporting flammable products, then you are really in no business transporting flammable products. Then what other, now for the transporters, what will come in are now the tertiary requirements that are actually provided for in regulation. When you're transporting this product, what safety requirements do you have in place? How are you training your drivers? And in case of emergencies, how do you handle those emergencies? Again, those are part of management requirements which we expect the transporters to fulfill.
And maybe before I let you go, we know some of the tankers not just involved here in Kenya. We know that some of them are transporting products across the East African countries. Is that a challenge that you are facing currently? And what are some of the other challenges you are facing? And what are the future plans to ensure that there's sanity on our roads?
The biggest challenge we are facing right now in our country is that when it comes to matters of health, safety and environment, accreditation has not been mandated. And you see, accreditation worldwide is voluntary, but it is made mandatory through regulation or legislation. Now, when it comes to dealing with things or products or services that would actually impact the citizenry, it is important for us as a country to actually step back and say, do we really want this to be left like that? Or do we want to mandate accreditation as a way of instilling discipline and ensuring that things are actually done right? Because yes, we can have regulation, but at the end of the day, how do we continually check that actually the regulatory requirements are met? So that for me, that's the biggest challenge. That as a country, we need to go back and ask ourselves, which are these things that impact the health and safety of our citizenry as well as the environment, and do we need to mandate accreditation there? So this will span across, but I know the focus right now is on inspection of petroleum tankers. The accidents on our roads, as you mentioned, is a challenge. Part of it comes from the construction of the vehicle plus the vessel that is on it. And secondly, it also comes with respect to the competence of the persons who are actually driving these vessels. Now, to be honest with you, all those are conformity assessment activities, because when it comes to the competence of a person, persons can be certified. Drivers are certified or are licensed. But when you do a one-time licensure, how do you then continually check that this person is actually up to date with the new technologies, new developments, with the new rules that we are actually putting in place? That is a certification component which is accreditable. Okay, there's no word like accreditable, but for lack of a better word, we'll use that for now. And then the vessel, the body, the vehicle that is used, whether you are talking about a passenger vehicle or a truck that is actually having this tanker on it, it needs to be built to certain specifications so that when there's an accident, there's a way in which we can salvage. We recently were working with NTSA with respect to the bus body construction, and we were saying the accidents that we have on our road should not lead into fatalities. Should that happen, there should be a way in which we can actually protect the bulk of the people in that vessel. And it purely arises from the way the vehicle is constructed. The same comes to the petroleum transportation process. The truck and the tank on it should be built in a way that should anything happen, God forbid, that we actually do not cause damage to everything around us.
Thank you, Susan Mushiri Ochieng, Deputy Director, Technical Services at the Kenya Accreditation Service. Trevor, we cannot finish this conversation before talking to the stakeholders themselves, the people who are involved in the petroleum transportation business, and one of them is now joining me. Tell us your name, where you work at, and as a start.
Good morning, Kenya. My name is Ayman Bayusuf. I represent my company, A.O. Bayusuf and Sons Limited. We transport within Kenya and across East Africa.
There are these regulations by the Energy Regulation Commission about transportation of petroleum products. What is your take on them? One of them is that the drivers must be fit medically, the structure of your vehicles must be okay, and many other issues. What is your take on that?
Well, you see, this licensing of petroleum transportation is a good idea. The intention is good, and it will streamline the petroleum transportation in general. ERC has given us ample time to submit our applications by extending the deadline over 2 months. And the intention is quite good. It is important that there should be a minimum standard in place, and companies should conform. They should meet the minimum standard to keep our roads safe. That is driver training, that is defensive driving, firefighting, medical inspection. You don't want to have an old person who is not fit or a young person who is incapable of driving behind the wheels. Yes.
And maybe, do you think these regulations are enough to bring safety, to prevent such accidents on the road?
Definitely, definitely. It will definitely minimize the incidents and the accidents on the road. You see, the stringent controls that are put in place by ERC, you see, calibration, tracking of the products. The tracking also includes how fast the vehicle is going, where it's parking. Is it in a designated parking? Is it in a safe location where it's allowed to park far away from the town? You see, so I think it will drastically minimize the accidents in place. There's other things that the company itself should do in order to put what they call the standards in place themselves. They can pass the minimum standard, but more should be done. This is Omondi, our operations manager from our company. I think he has a few things to say.
Maybe quickly for you, Omondi, tell us your name and what are some of the issues that you do in your operations to ensure that these accidents do not happen?
Okay, my name is Peter Genga Omondi. I'm the transport operations manager for petroleum in Eoba Yusuf. And basically we take our drivers through a lot of training. We do defensive driving, we check their medical, fitness to drive. And besides that also, they are mentored. We have driver mentors who train and mentor the drivers to the right standards. And on regular basis, it's actually weekly and fortnightly, we check their driving methods, because through the OBC, it's an onboard computer which is fitted. We check a lot of things on how they are driving, like harsh braking, harsh acceleration, overspeeding, night driving, because when we are talking of 6:30 to 6:30, they are supposed to comply. And if they have to extend, they have to have approval because of maybe there's a jam or something like that. But there are so many other factors we look at so that we have our roads safe.
Before I let you go, there is that issue of people with petroleum tankers parking them at areas which are densely populated. How do you deal with that?
We have actually designated parkings for our trucks, which we monitor. But all the same, I think most of the counties are working towards, creating proper parking areas which are isolated from the other trucks. Because you see the other trucks which carry general or dry cargo, they don't adhere to the flammability control, whereby somebody can come in smoking where he wants to maybe cook under the truck. But petroleum, we have to be extra careful. So according to the law, they are supposed to be on the outskirts of all these towns. But the parkings have to be created by the county governments to facilitate that, safe parking with at least security. Because also petroleum trucks in the outskirts can be misused by unscrupulous people who will want to siphon or adulterate.
Thank you so much for talking to us on some of these regulations. Most of these people, especially those who are involved in the transportation of petroleum products, are okay with the regulations. They have welcomed them. And these regulations, Trevor, take effect on the 4th of June this year. After that, every transporter must have a special license from the Energy Regulatory Commission, that is the ERC, to ensure that they are allowed to be on the roads. This is a way of ensuring that the highest safety measures are adhered to during the loading, the transportation, and also the discharge of petroleum products. Over to you, Trevor.
Thanks, Peter. That's Peter Mwangangi speaking to us from Mombasa. Listen, I want to take you straight to a match that's happening right now. It's being titled "Breastfeeding is a Right." This is coming after Kenyan mother told of her humiliation by some waitresses in Olive Restaurant. That's the restaurant right there. Those are live pictures from the CBD. The human rights groups are demonstrating to that area where they say that lady was humiliated when she tried to breastfeed her child. They are demanding an apology from the restaurant owners. Let's listen in. Well, live pictures there from the Nairobi CBD where human rights groups are protesting after a lady said she was humiliated by the owners of that restaurant, by waitresses working in that restaurant. That's Olive Restaurant. It's in downtown Nairobi. She was trying to breastfeed her child. She was ejected by some waitresses there who were a bit uncomfortable with that situation, and all those of the human rights activists now say that they want an apology from the restaurant owners. They also want the president to sign a bill that was brought forward by Sabina Chege, almost guaranteeing lactating mothers space to breastfeed their children. But right now we're going to cross over to a different situation here. The Senate Committee on Security towards Solai, that's in Nakuru County, just a few days ago, on a fact-finding mission to find the reasons why more than 46 people died there. They're currently holding a session to give the briefings of what they found out there. The Senate chairperson, that's Yusuf Haji, speaking right now. Let's listen in.
Fund of 1 billion shillings to support the victims of disasters. As a result, the disasters including the rains, areas affected by the rains, and that the fund should be put in proper use to ensure that all the affected persons are taken care of. 2, that the coordination of the disaster response was well conducted, but urge the committee to continue with the search of the missing victims, because we were told they were curtailing it. 3, that the investigative agencies should carry out thorough and quick investigation to bring all the culpable people to book. 4, that Solai Boys High School, where displaced area residents are being sheltered, cannot comfortably accommodate the large number of 9 numbers. Health and sanitation for the affected residents may not be granted, and we therefore recommended that the government should, as soon as possible, relocate them somewhere else. 6, the owner of Solai Farm should be held responsible and make to record a statement for the damage caused. From reliable information by Warma officials on the ground, only the collapsed dam was licensed out of the 7 on the disaster. And even the collapsed dam, although it was licensed, but it exceeded the recommended measurement which was made by Warma. The river have been obstructed during the denying the community around the neighborhood from getting water down the stream. And because it has been blocked, the capacity of the dam, the water exceeded the capacity of the dam, and it did not have any exit. So it had to find a way of existing from the dam, and hence the damage that it has caused. I will now leave my colleagues to add whatever they may wish to add. Susan, the senator for Nakuru, and
okay, thank you, Chairman. You have represented what the committee came up with, and I would just like to add a few things. One being that there needs to be very thorough investigations. A lot of what we are finding out on the ground seems to point at negligence from the owner of the dam, the Patel family. It is very disheartening when you're told by an agency, in this case Warma, that they sometimes are even not allowed, or they are restricted from accessing the property to be able to make sure that the dams are in good condition. And also when these owners of the farm apply for the license, or they go beyond what is approved. So obviously these are lots of illegal dams in the property. There is also a large concern in the fact that a lot, or actually almost all of these dams are built upstream with lots of human settlements downstream. So then the concern becomes, where do we resettle these people? But I also believe that Patel family, the owners of the farm, must be held responsible as far as resettlement for these populations. As much as the government is giving money towards the disaster, we cannot let an individual walk away free. In fact, my biggest frustration is that this person was not taken to a police station immediately this happened. My biggest frustration is that we have not seen him arraigned in court. These are over 47 people dead in Nakuru County. Many others are missing. And we have a person whose face we haven't even seen come to condole the people. We have a person who then says that he has been there helping the community. It is uncouth. It is wrong to block rivers. In fact, he has blocked 2 rivers in that area. One is called Marigo, and the other one is called Kwanguru. So he has blocked those areas that now pour into the dams. So the water from the rivers does not reach the people, the human population downstream. So then when you come around and later say, I am providing them with water, so we should not be too harsh on him because he's providing water. Well, it is their water. And in fact, the water that he then turns around and provides is polluted water from the dams versus the natural streams water that should have flown to them. But because his land is so restricted, you cannot get in there, nobody then knows what's happening. So there's lots of concerns. I am terribly disappointed by one agency called Warma. I think they need to be disbanded, or whoever is running it needs to go home. They probably needs to be replaced. This committee should call them here without delay. Because when you sit there and say that you are unable to go into the farm and find out what is happening, then you are a toothless dog. And you deserve to probably go home and let another more qualified Kenyan take the job and work. Because clearly, as much as there is negligence on the part of the owner, there is a lot of negligence from the agencies that were mandated with doing these works. I would also probably say that the other dams need to be shut down until we know they are safe. And maybe if they will be reconstructed, that to happen downstream, not upstream. Where then, because I mean, with 6 other dams, some bigger than the one that burst. In fact, yesterday when we made the tour, one of the dams was probably in worse shape. We saw cracks on that dam. The good thing is the engineers are now draining the water off of that dam. But what I'm saying is we cannot continue to cry when this happens. We must become proactive, but we must also be able to rely on the agencies that are mandated to take care and make sure that the Kenyans are safe. And in finality, this family must compensate those whose lives were lost, those whose property was damaged, because they are responsible. I'm sure reports will come out in due course, but it should not also take too long. Kids need to get back to school. I do not believe that it is a natural disaster. It is a man-made disaster through these killer dams.
Let me say.
Let's feel passion.
No, it's right. You have right. I think first let me say thank you very much for the attendance, especially from our media houses. My colleagues have actually said most of the things. But just to add on, I think disasters have happened in this country. But what we have seen in this particular case, the person who is behind the 46 deaths, 47. Actually, yesterday when we were there were 46. Initially, it was 45. When we were there, one body was discovered actually somewhere called Nyandarua Farm. And the body was recovered immediately. So clearly, there are more deaths that are going to come up. Nobody knows how many people are affected. But what we are saying, a precedent has been set that whoever actually causes those man-made disasters, the first thing what the government has been doing is to put them or take them to court. But why the silence on this particular person? Now the government is running around with the county government to make sure that people have been helped, taken to hospital, postmortems being done. Where is this Mr. Patel? That is the question we are asking ourselves. He should be held responsible as soon as possible. Secondly, there are kids who are out of school and they are candidates almost left with 4 months, they should be urgently resettled so that they can go back to school. Now, on the part of the dam, what we are told by the officials from Warma on the ground, there is only one dam. The one that collapsed is the only one that is licensed. And even the one that is licensed, it is almost 100% or 100 times bigger than what was approved. So clearly it means even the rest, he has expanded more than what was required. Or even it was not even licensed. So, and I think this guy is running illegal dams within those farms. And he should not be let scot-free. He should be held responsible. And the ones that are there are even collapsing. They are really dangerous as it is right now. So I think it's important we resolve this matter urgently and make sure that Kenyans are safe wherever we are. And finally, the Senate is looking at a bill that is before it, especially this particular committee on the disaster management. But let me confirm, the response on the ground on the part of the government and members of public is so overwhelming. There was a lot of food given, a lot of clothing that was actually donated to those affected families. But what they urgently need right now is shelter. So I hope the team that is put together should urgently look at that. And we appeal to Kenyans to come as quickly as possible to assist those families that are affected to be settled. Thank you.
I thank you, and we thank you, the press, for being here for this briefing. We obviously are condoling with the families of those that have suffered this calamity. This committee did a quick response through our chair, and in the guidance with our chair, we went to the ground to ensure that we actually get the facts right. And probably then the only other assurance we can give as a committee through the chair is that we will ensure that that support that is necessary from the government is going to be there for the people. It is already there, and we will follow up on that. And definitely the disaster response mechanisms are some of the things that as a committee we will follow up on, because this is not going to be, it's not just the only calamity that we are suffering. We have seen people having being eaten by crocodiles in Taita Taveta. We have had floods all over, but this one was really of very high magnitude, and most likely this committee is going to check into all these round issues, not necessarily this particular one. But it is also interesting to note that the investigative agencies are already on the ground, and they will be giving reports through which those reports this committee can make further recommendations. Of course, we have been told about Solai Boys that is already congested, that there is need for relocation of these people. Of course, this being the mandate of this committee, will follow up on that one. But mostly this committee will be speaking loud, and of course hold accountable those that are responsible for such reckless and negligent actions that are injurious to the people. So we really condole with them, and we feel we are part of that community, and most likely we will be there to oversee what is happening and hold accountable those that are responsible.
Well, I think you have the reason why we called you here. If you have any question, you can ask us. Yes.
My name is Rosalie from the Standard.
Yes, Rosalie.
You've talked about Solai Boys not being able to hold the high numbers.
Yeah.
Maybe roughly, can you give us the figure of those who are hosted there? And then then you talked about families talking about their loved ones that are yet to be found. Maybe I'm sure during the fact-finding mission you were given a rough figure of those families that have been forward, the people who are still missing.
Thank you. The number is about 150 people, families. And as I said, there are very, very young children, elderly people, expectant mothers. And we are afraid that if there's an outbreak of any disease, it will be another calamity. So that's why we are concerned, and we are asking that the government should do everything possible to relocate them, and also enable the school to open so that the students can pursue their education there. The missing, as you were told, as we said, when we went there and we met the security committee, they told us they have scaled down the operation. And we were of the views that, and rightly so, that they should not scale it down. They should actually, now that it is dry, they should extend. And when we were there, another body was found, not by the this disaster committee, but by Wananchi, who were going about their own business there. So far, exact number of people missing are not known, and it can only be known when the people report that they are missing. There's one lady who was saying that her brother came to work there, and up to now she has not seen, but she doesn't know whether he's gone to somewhere else. So if this research continues, I'm sure maybe it will come to an end, or some more people will be discovered. Yes, please. Yes, please. Well, hiyo ni swali mzuri, hata sisi tumeuliza. Kama vile Susan alivyosema, tumesema ya kwamba kitu ingefanyika ni kumwambia huyu mtu aje kwa police station aandike statement. Lakini walituambia aliandika jana, and this thing happened about a week. So we are not happy about it. We have seen that buildings collapsing here in Nairobi and Kisii and other places. And immediately this happens, the government looks for the contractor and the person, the owner of the building. And they're always brought to book. So hopefully with our visit and our concern, something will come out of it. Yes?
I think what they said, if I may add to what Chairman said, the security committee said they were fearing for the security of the owner because of the anger. And we actually told them, you're worried about security of one individual who has caused 47 deaths, which was not right. So we challenged them that this guy should be produced in court. He should be held responsible if he was the one behind all this. That was the
And not only that, we felt if they were fearing for his security on the farm, they could have taken him to any other police station to write a statement. So that one, we expressed our concern about it. Yes, please.
My question is for Senator Kika.
Yes.
There has been a norm in this country whereby we see a lot of reaction to a calamity or any happening. You have said that this owner of the dam blocked some 2 rivers. Among the top county leadership, were you aware of all this, and did maybe you hear the residents complain about the dam?
Good question. What it is I was not aware that it was him who had restricted the flow of the rivers. The residents or the people from the area really just thought water was no longer coming down. But now looking back and listening to them, it seemed they may have known that this is what is going on. But because he would come in with some CSR and build one classroom at Solai High or give a little dam water here and there, then it sort of was never brought to the surface. But what I would like to assure you is that now that I am aware, we shall not, and I will not stop until the rivers are let to flow following their natural course. And they've said very clearly, before this Patel family bought the farm, the previous, I guess, white settler had let the rivers flow the way they are supposed to. But since this guy bought the farms, he has restricted the water. And then you have to understand, the farm is here very heavily guarded. You cannot get in there. So you as Mwananchi from outside, you will know that, but there's nothing you can do. You cannot go in there and get the water. So it's a problem, and I feel like this person is behaving as though he's above the law. And clearly, if a week later nothing has happened to him, he hasn't even written a statement, perhaps he's above the law. Perhaps. So we are here to make sure that he's not. Yes.
Yes, please.
Edward, KBC. You said that Warma should be disbanded, and at the same time, you've also suggested that they should be called here. Which should come first, them being invited here or being disbanded?
Okay, let me clarify. You know, sometimes you get angry, and the more I think about it, I really am very upset by Warma. Maybe I mean more like whoever is leading that institution and the people in it should be fired after obviously due process. I do believe in people going through the due process, but I am one person who does not believe in just having dead weight in the office. Somebody who sits there, draws a salary, and then comes back and tells us they were unable to get in. So now, me as Raya, I'll say I was unable to get into that farm, and then you as the agency, you say you are not able to go in and make sure things are right because they refuse to let you go in. So I think right there, that just tells you how silly some of these agencies are, but for sure, coming here would be the first step.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. No, I'm not saying I'm joking. No. Inside joke. He said,
some of you, we see you on the TV, like her. I didn't know she also comes to. So, asante sana. Karibuni.
You're doing good job out there.
Gosh, and we forgot to mention there is an interdenominational service tomorrow in Solai Center, as well as mass for the bodies, and then everybody takes their body to go Bali. Right now, we are told possibly so. Yes. We'll find out. Yeah. You're right. Huh?
Well, those are live proceedings there from the Senate Security Committee. This is after fact-finding mission at the Solai Dam, where we know so far 47 people have lost their lives. Very strong sentiments there coming from the chairperson, Yusuf Haji, who's also the Garissa senator. Among some of the things he said is that the Patel team have to be held responsible to relocate the victims, and also the owner of Solai Dam should be held responsible for that particular mishap that happened in the dam. Warma, that's the Water Resource Management Authority, is coming under a lot of fire there. They're saying that they should be fired. The people who were there should be fired. But first, there should be someone to come to the Senate and explain the circumstances under which that dam was allowed to exceed the capacity that was supposed to have, even though they're trying to explain and say that most of the time they were not even allowed to get into the dam. Another thing that's coming out is that particular instance where the water may have exceeded the dam capacity despite having been advised by the people from Warma. Susan Kihika, who's the senator from Nakuru, is also saying that thorough investigation should be done, and the findings that they've seen so far after the fact-finding mission that they took the trip to Nakuru is that there was a bit of negligence on the dam owner's part, and she's also saying Warma officials are sometimes stopped from accessing the dams. She's the one who actually brought it up, was saying the Warma people were the Water Resource Management Authority. should be fired and should be put on the spot. And she also said she called them a toothless dog. And she also said that it's uncouth and wrong to block rivers in the area to channel water to these particular people of Nakuru. You sort of get the sense of the strong language that's happening there. This is after about 47 people lost their lives. There was a statement from the Patel team as well. I want to show you that on page 4 of the Daily Nation. I'll just read the first line of it. They say on the press statement that on Wednesday, May 9th, we lost 47 precious lives in the Solai Dam tragedy. We, the Patel family of Solai and members of the Patel farm management, would like to express our deepest condolences. Since 1935, the Patel family has been an integral part of the Solai community and has always supported projects that uplift the general standard of living of the Wananchi. We are currently investigating how this could have happened and deeply regret the occurrence. It's signed by Mansukh Patel, who's the chairman of the Solai group. But the Senate Security Committee is having none of that. They say they should be arrested so that they explain the circumstances under which the dam was allowed to exceed its capacity, and also the circumstances where which the dam was built upstream and there were settlements downstream, so that when the raging waters came down, ripping through all the families there, leaving them homeless and killing 47 people. And the Senate team is saying they should be held responsible, alongside WARMA, which is the Water Resource Management Authority, should explain the circumstances under which they were unable to ensure that the dam capacity was maintained. There's another protest that we're following up right now. It's called Breastfeeding is a Right. That's happening within the CBD as we speak. There are human rights teams who are there trying to get the owners of the restaurant, Olive Restaurant, which is in downtown, to explain the circumstances under which a woman was ejected from the place for breastfeeding a child. They say breastfeeding is a right. Let's listen into what's happening right now. It's in the CBD as we speak.
My name is Wanjeri Ndaru. I'm an activist and also an admin at the group Buyer Beware on Facebook, where this issue was first brought to light. What the group does basically is receive complaints, then we put it out there to our members, and the direction the complaint takes is how the members dictate. So people felt the need to have a protest against Olive Restaurant, but we looked at it and figured it is bigger than just Olive Restaurant. What is happening at Olive Restaurant, or what happened at Olive Restaurant, happens to women all over the country. It's not just them. The ignorance and the attitude towards breastfeeding is wanting in this country. So we decided to make it bigger than just a restaurant. And we said the protest is going to focus on asking the president. Last year, a bill was passed in Parliament, the Breastfeeding Bill 2017. He has not signed it 11 months later. And the questions that are arising is, if we look and compare, if this was, for instance, a bill about an increase of their salaries or something like that, the following day he would have signed. Why do women have to fight for everything in this country? We are 52%. Okay, our rights are human rights. So it is important for things that matter to women be brought forth. And that bill is very clear. We need breastfeeding spaces for women in either offices, in public spaces. We need places where we can change our babies comfortably. We need a situation where people don't just look at our breasts as sexual organs. They are feeding our babies. Whoever did not breastfeed is unfortunate, okay? But we are, the human race really is who we are, and we've been, till where we are because we were breastfed. That is the first nurturing thing that comes to a human being when you're born. So it is important that they take this thing as seriously as possible. We started the protest in the morning at Uhuru Park, where we congregated, and it has ended at Olive Restaurant, where the manager has given a public apology, which was one of our demands. He's also assured us that he's going to have a room put up on the top floor of the restaurant, where women who are breastfeeding can eat there and can change their babies. So he has committed to changing also the attitude of the staff and educating them more, and that is for us a win. So the next step is government. Can they do their part now? We have done our part as we the people. We have come together as ordinary citizens, and we have asked the president to look into this issue. Olive has done their part. It is now the president and the county government especially also to make sure some of these things are implemented, because we have beautiful laws in this country. They're just never implemented. So that is what the protest is about today. Yeah, last year June. The law, the bill was passed in Parliament last year June. Okay, that's 2017. It is 11 months later. It's going to be a year next month, and the president has still not signed it. So there's a problem here. Is it that he's not in tune with the problems that women are facing? And it begs the question again, if it was about their pay rise, would he not have signed it immediately?
Yes. Now, do you think everything has been achieved, whatever you are protesting?
For us today, we had 3 asks, okay? We had an ask from Olive to do a public apology, which they have done. We had an ask for the county government to get involved. In fact, they were not just involved, they came today and made a statement in the morning. So that is our second ask that we got. The third one is now to the president to sign it into law. And also the health bill and the everything that has been put down that should be made law to be for the president to make sure that it is achieved, because that is the problem that we are having. We have the laws, we just don't implement. Yeah.
Harassed.
The lady who was harassed, I'm in touch with her, and I'm grateful for her sacrifice, because it takes courage for her to do what she did. Also, she's in a state of fear right now, because she did not expect it to explode to the state that it did. But now we have a habit in this country where we always have the victim proving their victimhood. You know, how are you? How can you prove it? You know, it is always about where is the mother. The mother doesn't even need to be here. All right, she's following, she's terrified, I can tell you that for sure, because she's worried about the reaction from her family, from the public, security. She thought Olive would retaliate, but we are assuring her that what she did really is, if that law is, if it's signed into law, it is because of her. The noise that we have made, we made because she brought that issue into the public, and we are grateful for her sacrifice, yes.
Maybe do you think she was the only one who was harassed, or there are so many cases?
The lady who was harassed is not the only one. We have children. I have children. We have been victims ourselves, okay? Where you go to a public space with your child, and the first thing you're concerned about is who's going to think, you know, about me removing my breast to feed my baby. But on the other hand, if I was walking around with just my nipples covered and I'm walking in town, nobody is going to complain, because it's going to be looked at as a sexual organ. It becomes a problem when it is removed from your body to feed a child. That needs attitude change. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Karibu sana.
All right, live proceedings there from the CBD, that's around the Kenya National Archives area, where there were protests earlier on from human rights activists after a woman raised the alarm after being humiliated by 2 waitresses for breastfeeding a baby at a restaurant in downtown Nairobi. That restaurant is called Olive Restaurant, but there's been a bit of progress there. The manager has given a public apology, which is one of the things the activists and the protesters were demanding. He's also committed to build a room upstairs for lactating mothers henceforth, who can come and feed their children there without any reprimand from the waitresses. And also there's a general call from the human rights activists to the government to sign the bill which was brought in by Sabina Chege. That bill guarantees lactating mothers space in different buildings. Apparently it was brought last year in June. It hasn't been signed yet by the president, but they're calling for that to be signed and implemented. We're following all the details that you need to know about that and much more that's been happening around the issue of Solai Dam. The Senate Security Committee is now calling for the apprehension of Patel, who's the owner of the dam, saying he should take responsibility both in terms of neglect and also to resettle the people who are there. They're also calling for the disbandment or the investigations into Warma's laxity in terms of executing their duties. That's a Water Resource Management Authority there. They say that at a certain point they were not allowed to access the dam, and then the death toll from that dam tragedy has now been clocked at 47. We're following all the details for you there, and we'll be giving you all the updates in the next hour. We're still here on NTV Today. We're taking a short break now. When we come back, we get into the business world and everything else you need to know. Stay with us. you so much for staying with NTV Today. We're still following everything you need to know from across the country and beyond. Let's cross over to Homa Bay, where our very own Bernardo Juang is standing by the latest there. There's an attempt to help the flood victims there get a bit of relief from the people. Bernardo, what's the latest from where you are?
Okay, currently, thank you very much. We are live here in Litare village here in Homa Bay County. Remember what's going on here. Leaders, Homa Bay County leaders led by Gladys Wanga, who is the Homa Bay County women rep. They have come here to pay a visit to floods victims here in Litare. Remember, these come just after Homa Bay County nurses paid a visit to Homa Bay, to Rachonyo floods victims, and whereby they managed to take free medication there. And currently, what's going here? Wanga and his team, and her team, Wanga and her team have brought these people foodstuffs, and foodstuff that is maize, beans, and many other things. And they are saying that over 100 homesteads have been affected, and they are currently residing at this center. And we are going to talk to Wanga just to tell us what is going on here, and them as the leaders of Homa Bay County, what are the plans do they have at least to make sure they are solving this issue of floods once and for all. Remember, it is not the first time Homa Bay County is being affected by floods. Rachonyo people, each and every time when during rainy season, they are being displaced, and the same was as Litare people. Welcome, Mweshimiwa. Could you just please tell us what's going on here today? And remember, this is not the first time Homa Bay County people suffering from floods. What are the plans do you have? Start, maybe tell what are you doing here?
Thank you so much. We are here at Kitare in Gembe Ward in Bita constituency. We have come to visit our people because following heavy rains, actually there's been a long spell of drought, and then heavy rains have come and swept the crops off the farms and displaced some people. So we have come with support of Devolution and ASAL, having food staff and some blankets and so on to support the people who have been affected by floods. So this is the reason we are here this morning. But we are not just thinking about this as a short-term measure. We are working together. We were here 2 days ago with the Minister for Devolution and ASAL, Honorable Eugene Wamalwa, and we have began discussions among the leadership, including the county government and the national government, to look at what long-term solutions we can have to the issue of flooding in Homa Bay County generally. So part of the initiative to even plant trees, what we were doing here on the National Tree Planting Day, is a major step towards mitigating the effects of climate change that affects our people.
Mheshimiwa, this is not the first time Rachonyo people being displaced. Litare people are now the victims. What do you think should be done at least to solve these once and for all?
I think there are different measures for different places, but if you look at the areas like Lambwe here, which have been heavily flooded, we are looking at the issue of dikes. We could look at the issue of gabions. We could look at longer-term solutions such as planting trees to be able to protect our people from the effects of we are discussing specific solutions to specific places, and this does not just involve me as a single leader, but the county government, national government leadership, and the rest of us.
Trevor, before I get back to you, remember they have come here at least to talk to people, the flood victim, and we can't leave them without talking to them. At least get their reaction. What do they feel? We are going to get 1 year. Could you just please start with your name and how do you feel? How many homes have been affected here?
My name is Nyakinda Ann. I'm a teacher by profession, but the people here have really suffered. Most of them have come to stay at the centers because the water is lodged around the lake region, Godario, Orongo, Alara, to Mirunda, same to Ngode. These people have come to stay. All their farms are flooded. They cannot help. We are seriously affected by malaria. When Madam Horn went there. She found so many people who are affected by malaria. And the foods, the small business that we do, the farming that we do around the lake, all are affected. The skuma wiki cannot be produced now. Tomatoes cannot be produced. The farming, the fishing activities cannot. The fishing activities cannot be get because the people are not stable in their house.
What do you think?
It begins
What do you think should be done at least to solve?
First, we must ourselves, because when you are sick, you go and tell the doctor, you must get that you are sick. First, we plant trees. I encourage Wakina Mama, the parents who are here, that we must preserve our environment. We need not to wait for the government to come and tell us after we have died. We also want assistance of food, surplus to be supplied. We need the gabions. We have here, Tinga went off. It should be built so that this thing that comes and makes the flood more worse should be controlled.
Thank you very much. Trevor, you've just heard from them. Remember, Homa Bay County, you've heard it from Homa Bay County Women Rep Gladys Wanga saying that they have brought these people blankets, maize, beans, so as at least to feel that they are not left out. Remember, the Gwanga has also said that they have come up with measures, planting trees as a way of solving this issue of floods affecting every time when there is a flooding season. And they are saying that after that, make sure that each and every place, maybe the affected areas along the lake in Rachonyo area, trees are planted. Back to you, Trevor.
All right, thanks, Bernard. That's Bernardo Juang speaking to us live from Homa Bay, where the flood victims are currently getting some assistance from the area member of parliament and also from well-wishers as well. We'll be touching base with him later on in the broadcast. Listen, Dan Mwangi is standing by in studio today. He's talking about the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, one of the biggest trade deals in Africa. More than 44 countries are angling to sign in. With him in studio is Dr. Chris Kipto. He's a trade PS. Dan, over to you.
Thank you very much, Trevor. And just coming from the conversation about floods that was there in Homa Bay, one of the main things that comes amid all these issues of disasters is their livelihoods, and this is coming down to trade, the day-to-day business. The reason we are here is because we are working, trying to make a living for ourselves. And what has been happening is that the government and other stakeholders have been trying to ensure that the market grows beyond just the Kenyan market, especially in this day and age when it's a very internet-based, it's a global village, so you can trade with someone across the seas. But now they're putting in place plans to ensure that we can trade with different African countries under specific terms. And now to just get into the conversation about the African Continental Free Trade Area, I'm joined by Chris Kipto, the PS for Trade. Thank you for joining us. We know that President Kenyatta went and a number of heads of state signed to this not too long ago. Now, he'd been pushing for Parliament to pass this, and Parliament signed it. So what is the process now, between now and when we can begin enjoying any benefits?
Yeah, we had 44 countries that signed the agreement in Kigali, and we need a threshold of 22 countries to not only sign, but to ratify the agreement, for that agreement to come into force. So subsequently, we had our cabinet approving the ratification of the agreement, both the Africa Continental Free Trade Area and the Tripartite Free Trade Area, which we had not also ratified. So both were sent to Parliament. Parliament approved the Continental Free Trade Area and the Tripartite Free Trade Area. Last week, on Thursday, our ambassador in Addis deposited the instruments of ratification to the chairman of the AU, making Kenya to be the first country, together with Ghana, to deposit the instruments of ratification. So right now we have 2 countries that have ratified and deposited the instruments of ratification. We have Rwanda, that we have also been told that has already ratified. So very soon is also going to deposit the instruments of ratification with AU. And I'm aware of a number of countries also that are working hard to do the same. So we are hoping that in not so far from now, we should have the threshold of 22 countries that then forms the critical mass to have the agreement come into force.
Okay,
yes.
And just to de-jargonize, may put it that way, you've talked about the tripartite free trade agreement, we've talked about the ACFTA. What exactly is, for instance, the TFTA, which is the tripartite? What exactly is it, and how does it, benefit Mwananchi?
I think it's good to look at the history of Africa. When our countries became independent, each country tried to go on their own, even though we had our founding fathers, led by Jomo Kenyatta and Kwame Nkrumah and others, who really wanted Africa to remain one. But through the Abuja Treaty, it was agreed that Africa would be united through sub-regions. So in West Africa, there is West Africa, the ECOWAS, Economic Community for West African States. Then in the Arab world, we have the Arab Maghreb Union. And then in Central Africa, there is Economic Community for Central Africa States, which is called ECAS. Then in Southern Africa, we have Southern Africa Development Community. And then we have also COMESA, Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa. These were the sub-regions that were agreed. But over time, we had East Africa Community, for instance, coming into being, and several others. Within Southern Africa, we have what you call SACU, which is the Southern Africa Customs Union. So there has been a multiplicity of regional economic groupings. And you find countries like Kenya belongs to several of them. We are members of the East Africa Community, we are members of the COMESA, we are members of the AU, and now this tripartite free trade area is something that the heads of state of the EAC, COMESA and SADC agreed that we need to form a larger market and as a way of addressing multiplicity of recs. You can imagine you belong to 3 or 4 groupings, you have to pay fees because you have to pay membership fees, and it's just too much and it's confusing. So we just said, let's create one. So in 2008, 23 heads of state, I think that met in Kampala, agreed that the 3 regions, COMESA, EAC, and SADC, should form a tripartite free trade area. And in 2011, in South Africa, again another group of heads of state now launched the negotiations, and the negotiations were completed. And 2015, in Egypt, Sharm el-Sheikh, heads of state signed. We were represented at that time by the Deputy President of Kenya, Honorable William Ruto, who signed on behalf of Kenya. So countries signed to the tripartite free trade area. At that time, I must say that the tripartite free trade area is composed of 27 countries. 27 countries which are drawn from EAC, COMESA, and SADC. Now, out of the 27 countries, 22 of them are already members of a free trade arrangement, whether they are in East Africa, whether they are in COMESA, because COMESA, there are 14 countries that are already signed up to the protocol on free trade area. And then in Southern Africa, there is a SACU. If you are in a customs union, that means you are in a free trade area. So that forms a critical mass already of countries that are prepared for a free trade arrangement. So after signing, we were supposed to now move through a process of ratification. And we require 50+1 countries to sign and ratify for TFTA to be enforced. At the moment, we have the Arab Republic of Egypt and the Republic of Uganda that have already ratified the agreement. Kenya became the 3rd last week when we also had the parliament ratifying. We were expecting the COMESA General this morning, Siniso Ngwenya, to pick the instruments of ratification here in Kenya because he happened to be in the region. But I guess if he doesn't, we will still use diplomatic channels to deposit those instruments of ratification to the Secretariat. So as we speak now, there are 3 countries. I was in South Africa 2 weeks ago, and South Africa is preparing. I am aware the Cabinet of South Africa has already considered and approved the TFTA for ratification by Parliament. Okay. So already it's before Parliament. And so there's 4, we still have another 10. And we hope, again, the move will be towards that.
What happens with this we don't get the bare minimum, what then next for
Then
Kenya?
it will not happen. I mean, it will not be enforced because the agreement must.
So do we have a sort of a fallback in terms of so that we, for the things we are hoping to achieve through these platforms, do we then have a way of still trying to achieve the same?
I don't think we lose much, at least in the sense that within East Africa, we are continuing to deepen the regional integration. We went through a customs union, 2005, 2010. From 2010 up to now, we've been trying to operationalize the common market protocol. And there is a lot that we've been trying to work on that. So deepening regional integration in East Africa is okay. COMESA is the same. There's been a move towards not just having the FTA, the free trade agreement, free trade area, but also having a customs union. But in order to address this, everybody moving with different roadmaps, it was necessary that we create a larger area because there are benefits in becoming members of a bigger space. For instance, under tripartite free trade area, I've said we have 27 countries. And there is that population from those 27 countries is estimated to be around 650 million people and a combined GDP of about $1.3 trillion, which is, a big market. When you have such a big market where you don't have to pay any tariffs, it becomes a free trade area, then it's easy for you to move goods as long as you address what you call non-tariff barriers, which also tend to inhibit trade. But so we have these parallel processes where we have TFTA, but it seems recently there's been a big push by the African Union. I must congratulate them because we didn't envisage at the continental level we would move so fast.
So just to interrupt you a bit, and with the African Continental Agreement, what does this mean for the EAC, for instance? Does it mean it sort of gets dissolved into it, at least the trade aspect of it?
No, what will happen is, first of all, there will be negotiations to make sure that EAC is negotiating with other customs unions like SACO. We are discussing and making sure we agree on tariffs because there's a level of ambition we have agreed. But ultimately, there will be a free trade area within Africa, and EAC will be a member of that free trade area. But EAC happens to be having a deeper level of integration because you have a customs union, which is a common external tariff that is within East Africa. So they will, in a way, of course, it's a little bit diluted in the sense that it is not anymore just within East Africa, but you still are able to, have your own common policy, trade policy within East Africa, with which we trade with the rest of the world, including the rest of Africa.
So when we move into an African bloc, will that make it easier for us to deal with, like for instance, Tanzania, which has been quite a challenge for the rest? It has been a bit troublesome for the rest of the East African countries. Does it make it now easier that we'll kind of free ourselves from that kind of a push and pull?
Well, I think it's not an easy answer to answer because East Africa remains East Africa and Tanzania is a member. But I must say that Tanzania was among those countries that also signed the Continental Free Trade Area. It's among the 44 countries. I have no reason to believe that Tanzania will not be a member, will not be able to ratify. And I think once it ratifies, that means from Cape Town to Cairo, from Djibouti to Algeria, from Accra to, say, Dar es Salaam, there is a free trade, and there are certain aspects we have to work on. Apart from being what you call market integration, you also have things like working on industrial pillar, things like infrastructure and connectivity. And I think it is very promising for Africa, especially where you have a growing middle class. There is a growing middle class, and then the population is also increasing. So the consumer base is huge. And you're talking of about 1.3 billion people now.
Yes.
In another 15 years, we will be reaching 2 billion. And that is a larger market space. If you want to invest, the investment area is bigger. And so Kenyans can move freely from one part of from here to any part of Africa without any restrictions, as long as we are able to, be able to ratify this agreement, everyone, and then you have common free flow of goods, free flow of services, and even at some stage we'll have free flow of capital. When we begin to talk of a customs union for Africa, when we begin to talk of a common market for Africa, and even a monetary union, maybe one day we'll have a a single currency for Africa called the Afro or something like that.
Afro would be a hairstyle either way. But now, we've spoken on the higher level of the conversation in terms of the policy and the policy makers, the people running the agenda, the governments and the likes. What does this kind of an agreement mean for Mwananchi? The Mama Mboga who is selling things right now in Marikiti, what does it mean for her, or does it mean nothing for her? Is it something that's above her level?
It means a lot. It means a lot for Mama Mboga. And I want to say this in the context of what we have done as a country, as Kenya, to prepare ourselves to take advantage of this larger market. And you have had the president pronounce himself to Big Four. And we are saying we want to improve the number of goods that are being traded which have been added value. Because we still trade in primary form. So we don't want Mama Mboga to sell her just mboga in the way she does in that. We want to add value and then be able to, you know, preserve the shelf life of that product and move it to the market in which she will be able to attract a better price instead of just relying on a domestic market that has its own challenges. So the president has announced himself to, and the rest of the country, that we move manufacturing from 8.4% of GDP to 15%. That's really a big ambition, and I think it is very much in line with what our development blueprint, which is Vision 2030. And if you look at what we trade with Africa currently, our share, if you look at last year, we sold about 600 billion worth of goods to the rest of the world, including Africa. Africa took about 41%. And majority of what is sold to Africa are manufactured goods. So if we increase, therefore, our manufactured goods, the market that is naturally good for us is Africa. And so we are telling people that we now need to engage more. So we have just come up with an export strategy, a strategy that we are going to use now to focus on this. And we want to focus on that Mama Mboga. We want to look at agriculture. And in agriculture, there is a lot we are focusing on, like tea, coffee, we have horticulture. And horticulture, that's where Mboga is, and quite a number. And then we have issues like leather products, and then livestock. Of course, when you look about it, you have meat and meat products, poultry, and you have fish, and we want to push a lot in that direction. We have now manufactured items. We have just discovered oil. By 2022, we should be one of those who are oil exporters. We want to be in that, making sure that our emerging sector like oil and gas and petroleum generally is in that direction. We have discovered a lot of minerals.
Okay, and so, just still on the Mama Mboga, the small the SMEs, because we are largely an SME economy.
Yes,
we have a lot of focus on the informal sector is the greatest employer.
True.
So at the time when, let's assume we've fast forwarded and we are at a point where the bare minimum of countries has signed and we are good to go. Just trying to now speak in advance, what would Kamau, who sells fruits from Nyeri, for instance, and he wants to now be to jump onto the bandwagon, what would they need to do so they can actually be, benefit from this agreement that is being spoken about right from the highest level of the country, talking about them?
What has happened is that the agreement has a number of provisions. We have tried to streamline customs procedures so that if you are moving from one country to another, you easily move without having any challenges. There are also a number of things like non-tariff barriers. We try to make sure that we have agreed within this agreement to make sure that we break the non-tariff barriers that we know. Instead of roadblocks that you get policemen checking your goods, or even streamlining the clearance of goods, so that it will now be easier for you to move, say, through Ethiopia. It's very difficult, for instance, to move at the Ethiopian border now. Even if you are on a truck, when you reach there, you have to change the goods you remove from your car or your vehicle, and you put onto a vehicle from the other side. And it's very cumbersome. But right now, once you have this free trade, you just move from one country to another without, it's borderless. And as long as you meet the requirements that have been set up in the agreement, it will then be easy for you to move. So there will be free movement of goods. And it has also been agreed that there will be free movement of persons. So that if you are going with your goods. It's not that you just send your goods and you have no control. So this is the ambition under this agreement, that there will be free movement of goods and services. So for Wananchi, it's really for them to understand the opportunities that come in this expanded market. And a lot of, we just need to create a lot of awareness first for people to know. And I thank Nation for inviting me here so I can share with some of the listeners who are interested in this subject matter. We still have a lot of programs to roll out and go to Wananchi to explain to them what this means. But really, at the moment, the unemployment rate is very high. Sometimes when I go home, I get so many people who come and ask me to try and give them, try and provide opportunities, jobs. But jobs, I think, would be more easily created if we become entrepreneurs. We encourage our youth to be entrepreneurial and to engage in issues of trading. And when you talk of trading, there are many areas. You could talk of agriculture, you can be in livestock, you can be in fish, you can be in manufactured goods, you can also be in services. For instance, you can do insurance, you can do transport services, you can do ICT work. There's a lot in that area. There's business. You can also engage in travel, which is on tourism. So the opportunities are huge, and I think it is more. If you already see Kenyans are good in this area, and you will see if you go to Uganda, a lot of the rest of Africa, even the rest of the world, we are there. So I think given that we have a well-trained, we have a human capital that is really robust and can be able to get out there, I have no reason that Kenyans, the way I know they're hardworking, will really take full advantage of this agreement.
Okay, yeah. And now just speaking about international trade and how we are trying to make sure we balance all our resources, our priorities, we've seen that, you said that Kenya will not sign a free trade agreement that China has been negotiating with the EAC. Why? What is the rationale behind this?
Well, we would like to trade with, we belong to WTO and we believe in free trade. So under the rules established, we want to trade with everybody. But of course, we negotiate the trade agreement. At the moment, I am aware that China and other countries like Turkey, India, have applied for having a free trade arrangement with East Africa. And even to Kenya, that has happened. And we wouldn't mind. But I think from a strategic perspective, when I look at the numbers, all we are saying is that it is not the right time for us to go into a free trade arrangement. In fact, we are seeking for a preferential trade arrangement. Why am I saying this? If you look at the import bill last year, our import bill was 1.7 trillion Kenya shillings. 25% of that was were imports from China. Imports of goods, not services. So about 390 billion. And we exported only about 10 billion. So 39 times what we buy from China, is what, we only buy once. How do I put it? Ratio of 39 to 1. And at the moment, this trade is happening when there is a common external tariff. When there are goods coming, if there's raw materials from China, they will pay 0. You don't pay duty because it's allowed. But if there are intermediate goods from that country, you pay 10%. And if they are final goods, you pay 25%. And the share is 25%. So you can imagine if we open up, and because they are more competitive than us, we think that they will have more larger share. Even, of course, the argument can be reversed. We will have free trade with them, so we will also have free access to their market. But I expect that our growth in the exports to that market might a little bit not as high.
We risk. Are you saying that we're risking having even more dumping of goods possibly in here?
No. I think dumping is separate. I'm talking about even legitimate goods being traded. Legitimate Chinese
so
products.
So we move from 1 to 39 to say 1 is to...
Yeah, it could be even higher because they are more competitive. So it's just, we are not saying it's no-go zone forever. It's just that the timing is not right. And I think for now we're saying we would love, because, and this is an arrangement we're saying within the WTO arrangements that can, whether there is a possibility that we can engage even with them with an AGOA type of, where we have a preferential, what we call a non-reciprocal trading arrangements, if it were possible.
And so just in light of this statistic that you've given, of our trade is heavily skewed to China.
Yeah.
Is the government concerned about how much China has a hold on us in terms of how much we depend on them for our development?
But I think you need to look at it also in a positive way. I mean, if you are looking for funds and they are able to provide through the established channels, I see nothing wrong with that. I think we have a lot of companies, Chinese companies, who are operating here, and I think as long as they are legitimately operating here, I would have no problem. I think the point I'm raising here is that when you look at the balance of trade, in fact, if you add services, I think the ratio will be higher. So I should, not talking about substandard goods or dumped goods, which are separate issue we can discuss. For legitimate goods being traded, we are just saying, look, the imbalance is huge, and we would like to see that correction. And so we are discussing from a bilateral basis, in a friendly way, in a way that we can also work. If we could agree on certain, products we can sell in that market, and we agree together, I think these are things we are beginning to engage, and we have started bilateral discussions.
And so what ratio would we get to that would be a concern to the government that says now we have gotten into a red zone? Considering
look at
we are at 1 to 39 on goods only.
Yes.
So at what point do we get to 1? Is it 1 to 50 or 1 to what? That you feel it's a dangerous place?
Well, it is not really, even that 39 to 1 is not really that it is really bad. It depends on what we are importing. Because if you are importing, it doesn't mean any import is bad. You import to use some of the things for your production process. And if we are importing machinery and other intermediate goods, which we use in our industry, there is nothing wrong. And I think if you look at the SGR, for instance, those imports were necessary to put up the SGR. So I think we also don't need to say imports are bad. It depends on what type of import. If there is a lot of consumer goods that we could easily import, substitute, that's fine. But if you go to some of the supermarkets, you will find some of the products really that in my view, we shouldn't really be, our traders should not be importing if possible, because eggs or fish or some others which are available domestically, I think it's an issue. But we live in a competitive environment, so and consumers have choices, and it depends on what is available to them, based on their tastes and preferences and affordability. Yes. And one thing that when you talk about China, something that China has easily been pointed at when it comes to trading with Kenya is fakes. And now this is now moving beyond just the China conversation. We've got a challenge of counterfeits, which is a multi-billion shilling industry, we'll call it that. So what is being done? Because this, considering that counterfeits come under the trade and industrialization agenda, that means, and this is a part of the president's big four. So if counterfeits are not dealt with, are you really going to achieve the big four within the time set? No, it's going to be very difficult. Let me correct you. I think, I don't know how you got the story of China being, source of fakes.
It has been cited a number of times as being one of the sources. Not to say that it don't have legitimate things, but it has been cited.
Well, there are also other countries that have been cited. And also we have fakes internally. I mean, we have people who fake products internally.
So that do we have more fakes locally or from outside?
I think there is some work going on in that direction to let us know. But we still have a lot of imported goods. And I want to say this. We are calling it illicit trade. And illicit trade is trade which is being conducted in a manner that is not legitimate, that is not based on laws and regulations. So, for instance, if you are trading in counterfeited goods, it means you have mimicked or tried to use intellectual property rights of someone else and tried to use it to manufacture a product, and you want to sell it as your own, yet you have you have done an infringement of intellectual property rights. So we are saying no to fakes, and we have declared total war on counterfeits, and there is a big operation even now going on, and we are not going to spare anyone, because fakes are very bad. You can imagine if you have like these electrical bulbs, you use them, they don't meet the standards. You have pipings or fittings for water fittings, or even if for food or medicine that is faked. Sometimes they don't meet the threshold to be said is health for you. So it is a threat to the human life and animal even in that case. We have some fertilizer that we got even in Eldoret recently, and it's fake. And what does that impact on the wananchi? You buy fertilizer, you go and you think you are growing food, but what is happening? You're using fake fertilizer, so you will not get the production you're looking for. That farmer is really losing in a big way. And these are unscrupulous businessmen who don't want to earn income in a legitimate way. And for now, so for us to move and be successful in our manufacturing agenda, there is no way that we are going to have fakes in our town, in our sector. And so all the agencies, enforcement agencies that are tasked with this, Anti-Counterfeit Agency, Kenya Bureau of Standards, Kenya Revenue Authority, and any other institution that has the mandate to deal with this, they have been instructed to enforce the law fully. So, for instance, we are, apart from counterfeits, we also have contraband goods. You may have seen the sugar that we banned last week, that we threw in last week. What happened is that these were contraband sugar. Somebody purported to be importing spare part machines and declared in the manifest as spare parts. And in 16 containers, when it arrived in Mombasa, it was checked and it was found to be having sugar. And it is sugar packed up in Kakira labels. Kakira is a company in Uganda that deals with sugar. So when it's opened, you think it is, if it's just brought to somewhere in Mombasa, you would then find this as sugar coming from East Africa. And what would happen? Sugar attracts 100% duty, but spare parts attract 0. So that unscrupulous trader would have earned 100% because he should have paid 100% duty for sugar, but he didn't. But we nabbed him. But if he succeeded, government would have lost about 15 million in terms of foregone revenue, and then this sugar would find its way into the domestic market, and because there's shortage, he will sell it at maybe 80 or 100 shillings per kilo, making a kill out of this. And we have our farmers in Western Kenya and others who are struggling to grow sugar cane, and they are looking for market. And you have people who are coming with cheap items now to compete. You are hurting that sector, and that is really bad. I'm just giving that as an example.
Okay.
So we have said we deal with that. Every agency must check. Sometimes they have to be alert, and that's why we have we have come up with a multi-agency approach. Multi-agency approach where there is collaboration of all the agencies involved in one way or the other in dealing with illicit forms of trade. And I can tell you, it is very much alert. So I'm just telling anyone who out there, please do legitimate business, and you will have no problem with Kenya. And this is really a message that is coming from everyone who wants to make Kenya a good place to live in.
Okay.
Thank you.
And just in closing, and just stepping back again into the trade within the region, and we know that Tanzania has blocked, there's a trade dispute again with Tanzania. You had told us a few months ago that you had resolved everything with Tanzania, but now we are seeing there's TZ is blocking Kenyan goods such as milk and the likes. Is it that it's a new dispute that has arisen, or what is the situation?
Well, I think milk is not being is not one of those. At least unless it has happened now. Well, I know we resorted that issue.
Yes.
There are many others we have resorted. But I'm aware that some of our manufacturers are really complaining that their confectionery items, especially any item made from sugar, is finding it very difficult to enter into Tanzanian market. Some of the labels also, when you have some of the labels, they seem to be saying these labels are not correct, and somehow it's causing a lot of difficulty to our traders. And they have complained to me many times. I have received a letter from the Kenya Western manufacturers saying that they still don't see much progress despite all the efforts we have made. And I think I'm still hopeful that we are resolving this, because through the Minister of EAC, he has been engaging together with the PS on that front. At our level, as my minister and the PS Trade, we are also doing our best, and the Foreign Affairs, we are engaging. I think there are issues we're going to resolve, like for instance, the issue of clothing. Sometimes we have some of the products from EPZ companies and the non-EPZ. There is a problem because they don't distinguish which one is coming from EPZ and non-EPZ, despite the fact that there is a certificate of origin issued by Kenya Revenue Authority. But at the border of Tanzania, there is still a problem. They say, no, we are not too sure. However, last week it was agreed that there would be a verification mission by Tanzanians to come and check, to confirm that actually these are, whatever is being exported to them is coming from certain locations. So I just want to give reassurance that all is not lost.
Isn't it fair to deal with Tanzania this way with all the back and forth?
No, we will reach there. I'm not giving up myself, because I think we're engaging. I've seen goodwill, especially at the top level. We have seen President Magufuli himself pronounce himself. Our colleagues at PS level, we have seen them pronounce themselves to this. There seems to be something at the lower level that we are hoping this will be sorted. So there are a few things we want to do. 1st of July, we will then be able to see whether we have resolved that. Some of the things also that ourselves we feel we need to address in order to create probably that easy way of dealing with them. So I just want to assure you, all is not lost. I still maintain it will be well with our trade in Tanzania.
All right, thank you very much, Chris Kipto, the PS for Trade, who's speaking to us on different issues, especially within the international trade and the regional trade and continental trade. And just like he's mentioned, there's been a number of challenges that have been coming up, which the government is dealing with. And as he said, like the manufacturers, the CAM have spoken on behalf of the different companies that have been having challenges with Tanzania, for instance, and then counterfeits, which are stealing a lot of money from the economy, and they pose a threat rather to the swift implementation of the Big Four agenda. But like the PS has said that there's a lot of work being done to ensure that this does not become the case. A lot of that happening, and so pretty much from now it's pretty much a matter of let's look forward and see how well these plans are going to be crafted and implemented to bring forth the benefits that are expected, that the common mwananchi, both the large companies down to the the low income earners and the low income generating farms, can actually get the benefits, the full benefits of these promises, which we see a lot of signings and big talk about, a lot of corporate jargon as usually happens. But aside from that, when the mama mboga wants to make her 2 shillings a day, her 10 shillings a day, does that translate to that, which is what ultimately this should be? And we shall be having, this is a conversation that won't end here. There's a lot that has gone on. We can even have a different conversation on counterfeits, but that will be a discussion for another day. But for now, we cross over to the entertainment news with Usha Uzei.
Right, and a lot happening on the entertainment scene. As always, we start local, and I am very excited that this first story is not only local, it actually happens to be in-house. Now, a few weeks ago, Nation Media Group announced its latest venture. That's the launch of a music record label, Lit Music. And with that came the launch of the biggest and baddest lifestyle show in Kenya. I am talking about Lit 360, the show that has got everyone talking and has been trending on social media for the last couple of weeks. Now, the show has had interesting guests such as Yemi Alade, Sauti Sol, and last week we had the real OG Calligraph Jones, who shared the meaning behind all his tattoos. Take a small peek at exactly what Lit 360 is all about.
You spend so much time in Kenya, and we joke about you getting a Kenyan passport and citizenship.
there, just in time for NTV at 1. My name is Trevor Ombija. There was confusion at the Nakuru County mortuary as relatives of the Solai Dam disaster identified the bodies of relatives, with two families claiming the same body. The families could not agree on the identity of the body of a girl believed to have been about 6 years old. The number of dead has risen to 47 after a body was found on Monday.
Nakuru Municipal Mortuary has been a beehive of activities as families identify the bodies of their loved ones lost in the Solai Dam tragedy. There was drama and confusion as two families identified the body of a 6-year-old girl. According to a survivor, Teresia Njeri, her daughter, Mary Wamboi, aged 6, was washed away by the waters while they were in the house.
Tumekuja hapa mara tatu tukakosa na sasa tumeingia huku ndani tukatabua ni lakini ametabuliwa na watu wawili sahi.
Another family identified the body as that of their 9-year-old daughter, Mary Wanjiku, whose mother died in the tragedy.
Mama ya mtoto siako pale, hiyo tumetambua, hakuna shida hapo. Sasa kama hiyo mwili iko tabu, tunaweza atolewe, aletwe hapa ndio.
A doctor who was among the team assisting in the identification, the postmortem, said that a DNA test will have to be done on samples from the parents and the deceased to rule out the confusion. For Rebecca Kimer, the process of searching for her son has been difficult and painful. James Kimer's body was recovered at a coffee plantation.
Poteza mtoto wa miaka 4 na miezi 3. Nilimtafuta tu kwa mochari hii na ingine ya huko juu nikamkosa. Sasa nilikuwa nangojea tu kwenye atapatikana. Then mimi huyo nikafuata hiyo mwili ilikuja kuhakikisha kama ni yangu. Na nilipofika nikapata ni hiyo.
Even as families identify the bodies of their loved ones, the discovery of Kimer's body at the farm raised the possibility that some bodies are yet to be found.
The Senate Security Committee is calling for the arrest and also for Patel, the owner of the Solai Dam there. He says that he went against certain rules to ensure that the dam capacity is maintained. They're also calling for the disbandment of Warma. They held a session earlier on today chaired by Yusuf Hajus, the Garissa Senator. The Senate.
A lot of what we are finding out on the ground seems to point at negligence from the owner of the dam, the Patel family. It is very disheartening when you're told by an agency, in this case Warma, that they sometimes are even not allowed, or they are restricted from accessing the property to be able to make sure that the dams are in good condition. And also when these owners of the farm apply for the license, or they go beyond what is approved. So obviously these are lots of illegal dams in the property. There is also a large concern in the fact that a lot, or actually almost all of these dams are built upstream with lots of human settlements downstream. So then the concern becomes, where do we resettle these people? But I also believe that Patel family, the owners of the farm, must be held responsible as far as resettlement for these populations.
Precedent has been set that whoever actually causes those man-made disasters, the first thing what the government has been doing is to put them or take them to court. But why the silence on this particular person? Now the government is running around with the county government to make sure that people have been helped, taken to hospital, postmortems being done. Where is this Mr. Patel? That is the question we are asking ourselves. He should be held responsible as soon as possible.
Kitu ingefanyika ni kumwambia huyu mtu aje kwa police station aandike statement. Lakini walituambia aliandika jana, and this thing happened about a week. So we are not happy about it. We have seen that buildings collapsing here in Nairobi and Kisii and other places. And immediately this happens, the government looks for the contractor and the person, the owner of the building. And they're always brought to book. So hopefully with our visit and our concern, something will come out of it.
And away from that, police have arrested the most wanted criminal gang commander, Timothy Kiptanui Kitai, also known as Cheparti, after several months in pursuit. Timothy Kiptanui Kitai, also known as Cheparkat, was arrested by police in Eldoret. The The suspect has been under the radar of local detectives for several months for instigating violence in Mount Elgon region, leading to the death of dozens of people there. Police had placed 1 million shillings bounty on the head of the deadly criminal gang commander, who was also accused of recruiting militia to take control of the land in the controversial Chepyuk settlement scheme. And back in the city, Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko has been ranked as one of the worst performing governors in a new study by research firm TIFA. Sonko scored an aggregate of 44% behind his three counterparts, Anyang' Nyong'o of Kisumu and Hassan Joho of Mombasa, who received scores of 56% and 53% respectively from the residents there. The research conducted between March 1st and 14th listed the garbage menace, lack of clean water and drugs in hospitals, poor roads and failure to involve the public in the decision-making process as some of the biggest challenges facing residents of the three counties.
If you look at clean water, there's a big challenge there between Mombasa and Nairobi. You can see the scores are very low. If you look at environmental cleanliness, again, the scores from the citizens are very low. Then if you go to Nairobi only, the areas that they perform way below is sewerage systems, the feeder roads, and the market centers. Kisumu is performing better than Mombasa and Nairobi. If you were to say anything, we can see Kisumu is ahead.
Workers at the export processing zones may soon earn better wages once the government concludes discussions with employers and union officials to review their pay. Currently, EPZ workers earn an average of 14,319 shillings per month compared to the expatriate colleagues who take home 103,157 shillings per month. This pay disparity has caused whispers of discrimination, with workers threatening to down their tools a number of times. A report by the Export Promotion Zones Authority indicates that the zones employ more than 50,000 local workers and only 604 foreigners. Labour Minister Ukuri Atani says he's looking into the workers' concerns.
Accompanying productivity is also a big challenge. So we are now going to enter into a partnership with all the EPZ zone with a view of linking with the National Productivity Center of Ministry of Labour, so that they can also comparatively look at all matters that not only reduce on cost but also increase the efficiency and the production capacity of the workforce.
And away from that, about 50 households in Ndia sub-county in Kirinyaga County are now living in the cold. The families who are victims of floods are currently living in makeshift camps and are now asking for support from the national government. The affected families are now living in tents provided, while others have found shelter in the classrooms at the Kiajang Primary School. Women Representative Wambui Girishi, among other leaders who visited the affected families, want the government to allocate funds to relocate and to resettle the families. Let's get into some sporting action now. A day before Gor Mahia face USM Alger in a CAF Confederation Cup group stage match, there is uncertainty on the availability of Kasarani Stadium as a match venue. Gor Mahia have this morning been denied access to the refurbished stadium for the mandatory pre-match briefing ahead of Wednesday night's match. The briefing was moved to the Football Kenya Federation offices, which is in the neighborhood of the stadium. In a statement to the media on Monday night, Acting Sports Kenya Director General Salma Ondimu announced that the stadium had been shut down due to vandalism during the Hull City Challenge match on Sunday between Gor and Hull City. It is 30 days to the kickoff of the 2018 FIFA World Cup in Russia. Just a timely reminder that NTV is your home of World Cup. in a partnership with Kwese Free Sport NTV, is on the sole free-to-air broadcaster of the global footballing extravaganza. We shall bring you 32 of the 64 matches, coupled with top-class analysis as well as informative magazine shows. On to some World Cup updates, and Peru captain Polo has been ruled out. within the county, including households, schools, prisons, police cells, and referral hospitals as well. County Executive in charge of health, Abdi Hakim Bilo Noor, said health officials will conduct door-to-door awareness campaigns in schools and homes as well. According to statistics from the World Health Organization, Wajir was one of the worst hit counties with a total of 119 cases reported in 2017. Away from that, residents of Kajiado County and farmers could resume normal operations soon after the county government pledged to repair sections of the roads that were damaged by the heavy rains. Residents have blamed the county government of failing to repair them in good time. They say a number of schools had been closed and villages in Kajiado West Sub-County cut off after the heavy rains destroyed major roads and bridges. Governor Joseph Olelenku assured them that the repairs in 5 sub-counties had already begun. All right, that does it for NTV at 1 and NTV Today. Time now for NTV Sasa. My name is Trevor Ombija. Always a pleasure having you with us. Stay tuned.